welcome to Lucinda, who's going to be speaking with us today about the difference between product owners and product manager roles. I've really been kind of impressed with the amount of people who have approached us to collaborate on Product 51, so I really do appreciate your time, Lucinda. But yeah, if you could just do a quick intro to yourself.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Lucinda Faucher. I work as a head of product delivery at Big Hand, and I'm also the host of the Prodbox podcast on all popular streaming platforms. And really my passion is building great products and contributing to building great product teams. And I'm really passionate about learning and trying to help others learn while I do too.
Perfect. Now, if you haven't listened to the Prodbox, I've been listening over the last couple of weeks, and it's yeah, brilliant, and really this is a topic you've also spoken about on there as well. So I think, you know, if you're interested after this, then go and have a look and see what you think to the other episode as well. So so how did you get into product, Lucinda?
Well, funnily enough, I probably, like most, fell into product management. I didn't, leave university and say, hey, I want to be a product manager. It was definitely not like that. It was sort of leaving university and knowing that I wanted a role that involved working with people. I really enjoyed tech, so I studied psychology with artificial intelligence. So it was even apparent in what I studied, what I wanted to do. I wanted something really techy, and I wanted to kind of engage with people. And I really fell on this role. I started as an assistant product manager. I actually came from a marketing background and then wanted something different and kind of fell upon this assistant product manager role. And that was 10 years ago. And I haven't left since. I'm still here. I think a lot of people have kind of just fallen into product management from different walks of life, whether it be, working as a project manager or working in tech or as a developer or as a business analyst or whatever. It just, you just fall into it.
Yeah, I think that's the brilliant part about product management, is that there's so many different avenues into the role because it's such varied kind of skill sets. So that was another question I wanted to ask. So you kind of fell into product management, but why did you decide to stay, and why did you decide to continue that career?
I decided to stay because I just loved producing products that users love, products that users like to interact with. I think it was many things. Like, first and foremost, it was the engagement. So engaging with clients and customers. I started in a B2B setting. And throughout my career, most of it has been in B2B anyway. So, liaising with customers, working with internal stakeholders as well, solutionizing and finding innovative ways to solve problems through software products. That was what attracted me as well, because you're looking at design, or you're looking at usability and user experience, and you're essentially trying to solve someone's problem or solve a business problem. So I like to solve problems as well. So solve problems, talk to people, and kind of work with new technologies and try to find innovative ways to build exciting features. And later on, as I progressed in my career, building product teams and mentoring and coaching and building teams that work well together and create, huge product suites that are successful. So I stayed, I'm here, and I'm about it.
Exactly. You've taken on a lot of things. You do your kind of day job, and then you're also doing the podcast. So you can see the passion that you've got for product is brilliant. So I think, we've kind of touched on this, that you've got a passion for mentoring, for learning. So why did you decide to support me with Product 51?
And I think just what you said it. I'm really passionate about sharing my knowledge, sharing what I know, and inviting others in the industry to share what they know, because product management is very different depending on the company that you work for, depending on the industry that you're in, depending on whether it's B2B or B2C. And there's so many product managers out there with heads filled with experience that others would benefit from. And I think Product 51 a product community where you can actually go and find that information or find that experience to help you succeed in your role and in your what product you're building, is just a great thing to do. And it's the reason why I started the Prodbox as well. So supporting, others who want to do the same thing is definitely what I want to do.
Brilliant. And I was talking to someone recently who actually mentioned to me that, a product role, as much as you kind of liaise with so many different people in a business, it can also kind of be quite isolating depending on what type of business you're in for your own skills, because you have an understanding of everyone else's, but they potentially don't have an understanding of yours. So I think that one thing I've mentioned in that building this community, I've been so impressed with the amount of people who want to be involved. And I think that's potentially it, because you kind of don't have that generally in certain businesses. You don't have that community within the business, and like others do. For example, like development, you can speak to kind of a lot of different developers, but product is kind of the minority in a business usually, isn't it? So I think, as much as kind of information we can all share, the better. So can you give us an overview of what you believe a product owner role and a product manager role entails, and where the differences that you believe sit?
So I think if we kind of take a step back and look at product manager in the traditional sense and look at product owner in the traditional sense. So the product owner role obviously is derived from one of the Scrum roles, so agile methodology. If you're using Scrum, which probably most people have experienced or heard of, the product owner forms one of the roles as part of a Scrum team. And this is a very tactical role. So it's all about managing, prioritizing the backlog, facilitating the team to work on that backlog, and understanding how we are going to solve the problem. So this is all about, this is the solution. This is how we're going to implement it, working with the team to refine it, prioritize it. And once that's come out of it, once something's come out of it, presenting to stakeholders, getting feedback and looping that feedback in. If we look at the product owner from a traditional sense, then that is kind of encompasses the core of what a product owner should be doing. But as with my episode, it's not limited to that, and the role has kind of evolved over time. But then if we look at the product manager role, this is where we look at a more commercially focused product role. So traditionally, the product manager focuses on what we're building, whereas the product owner is how we're building it. So the product manager will look at the market, the customer need, understand what we're doing and why, and what problem it is solving, and owns the kind of roadmap, vision, return on investment, and works with the businesses or clients or customers outside of the business, but as well as inside of the business, like marketing and the different stakeholders, to really drive the value or the value proposition for what we're building, and monitors how we're building it and monitors the success of the product as well. So builds in metrics or objectives for, okay, our product is successful when we reach X value or X or X clients or users. But then when I think about a product owner role, which I've been a product owner, I've been a product manager, I've been an assistant product manager, when I look at product owner, I don't think that those activities as part of a product manager role are limited to a product manager. I feel as a product owner, you definitely need to understand the market. You definitely need to understand your user needs. You have to understand the problem that you're solving. You have to be aware of, you might not create, because the product manager would do that, but you might not create the vision, but definitely be, live and breathe the vision, because that is what you're feeding to the teams that are building the product. So you really have to be on board with the vision, the strategy, understand the market and the customer needs, and understand what your key differentiators are, just like a product manager would need to do. I do feel a product manager and product owner both kind of need to really understand the needs of the user, and maybe more so on the product owner side, looking at usability and user researching, user testing, along with, you know, your design team if you have one, or your UX team if you have one. So it's really, you know, I feel like sometimes the lines are a bit blurred with product owner, product manager, but I feel it's really key to just find what you love about product management and what role allows you to do that.
Yeah, and where you mentioned the kind of usability and the user story side is more important, you'd potentially say on the product manager side. Why is that? Oh, sorry, product owner side. Apologies. Yeah.
I think with the product manager, it's a more kind of commercially facing role. So they tend not to be too tactical, whereas product will be writing the user stories, prioritizing the backlog, refining with the team, you know, driving that iteration to meet the sprint goals, and writing the acceptance criteria, etc. So it's, but you know, and it's not just limited to that, as I say, but it's more because the product owner is a tactical role and the product manager is a more commercial role. So it's all about finding the why are we building, and the product owner is finding the what.
Okay, perfect. And do you, where you mentioned it's about finding kind of what you love, and then deciding which role is right for you, how would you advise, you know, what particular skill sets would you say would be better suited to a product manager or to a product owner? I suppose not only skill sets, but, you know, what is it that people would need to love, do you think, to be better suited to each role?
Do you know, I think the same skills are needed for both. I thought you need to have great communication, you need to be engaging, you need to be able to articulate your vision and strategy, you need to love building products, you need to want to be able to delight your customers, you want to also think about the success for the business. You know, how are you going to kind of show the business that this product is a success. You need to monitor those metrics, and really just changing people's lives through product. If you love doing that, then either role would suit you.
Yeah, perfect. So it's really about, you have that choice. If you can kind of do one, you feel like you can do the other just as well. It's just really about where you want to kind of hone in those skills as to the kind of what or the why.
Yeah, exactly. And if you really like to be in a tactical role, you know, writing the stories, getting in with the usability testing and researching, working with the stakeholders, working with the development team, then you know the product owner role is for you. If you want to look at from a more commercial perspective, if you want to think about strategy and vision and really understand, okay, what's next in the market and what's the market direction, and what new thing can we build to solve this problem, then maybe product management is for you, because it's more thinking about the future, whereas the product owner, you do think about the future, but it's more, what are we doing now? We need to kind of build this and what we're working on now and prepare your backlogs for that. So, you know, it all depends on what you love.
Yeah. And then with regards to kind of going company to company, I know that well, product is such a obviously varied role, and I think that we're having this conversation because there is that kind of not, I suppose, confusion, but there's a crossover in roles, you know. So how do you feel that the role could differ company to company, and how do you think that companies, what's the most common way which they tend to split these out?
Yeah, so I think it definitely, as you said, depends on the company, because even if you go on something like LinkedIn or a job board and look for a product manager role, I think sometimes you'll find that the product manager will be in the traditional sense. So, you know, create the strategy, create the vision, the roadmap, liaise with the product team, you know, look at pricing or market need, customer need, etc. But then on the other side, you might see a product manager role which describes actually product ownership activity. So creates the backlog, manages the backlog, liaise with customers, understand customer needs, working with the design team, working with the development team, you know, defining iteration or sprint goals, etc. So again, it can be slightly confusing because it's two different roles but with the same title. So I think it's really just trying to understand what you want from a role, and and then going for it, and don't try to get too bogged down in titles, because sometimes it's not reflective of actually what the role is doing, if we think about product manager, product owner in the traditional sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, if you look at kind of job descriptions, for example, there's so much, potentially, I think, confusion as well with certain kind of companies and what, the role actually is. It's very clear on what the role entails, but, what they call the role can vary, and it would be the same role, say, as a product manager and a product owner could be the same role at different businesses. So I think it's very much about looking at what the description of what you're actually going to be doing is, and working out if that suits you. So why do you think that companies kind of, obviously we've mentioned that some companies kind of do this potentially by not realizing that they're doing this, but why do you think that some companies actively combine the roles?
Probably just due to size of company, what's required for the business, because it depends on where you are in your product life cycle. If you're, is it development, introduction, growth, maturity, innovation stage, where you kind of need to not go on the decline, but you need to create innovation so you can stay relevant in the market. It all depends on where the product is and what it requires. For example, a startup, the product manager might play both roles. So it might do a product owner activities, so working with the dev team, but also think strategically with senior leaders in the business. So they might do both. Whereas if a larger kind of B2B organization may have product managers for individual products, but then also product owners to do the tactical piece and work with the development team. So it all depends, I think, what the business requires, what roles they have, and if they combine the roles. But you usually see in the smaller companies they do both roles.
Yeah, perfect. And where you mentioned there's obviously so many different ways you can come into product. Do you think that a particular background prior to moving into product would be best suited to either role? Or do you think that, say, if you come from more of a commercial background, you might be better suited in a product manager role than a product owner? Do you think that's relevant, or do you think that anyone could do either role?
I think it is relevant. I think if you do have a kind of commercial background, then product management will probably, a product manager role would, you kind of slip into it quite nicely. But it's not just you having that commercial acumen that is going to help you be successful in the role. You need other skills like that communication, that engagement. You need to understand the market, understand the problem that you're solving, and you need to work with many different stakeholders as well. You need to also have skills around usability and design, working with the design team. So I don't think if you, it's an advantage if you do have commercial skills to go into a product management role, but I do think that it can be learned. I do think that you could be a chef and want to be a product manager for a cooking app, for example, and industry experience. So immediately you kind of understand the market, and that's important as well, because you need to understand who your users are and who you're actually building this thing for. So don't limit yourself. You can do anything.
Absolutely. And doing things like this as well, this is all about the learning parts. What I've been really impressed with kind of moving into product is the amount of people who go on that self-learning journey and actually take themselves out of work as well, and actually kind of go and technically upskill themselves or upskill themselves commercially. And there's so many different avenues that you can learn, that I think that it is one of those things that you don't have to limit yourself. But going into both of those roles, with regards to kind of career progression, do you think that those avenues set you up for a different kind of career progression? And do you think that you could move up in roles in a different way depending on whether you choose product owner or product manager?
I don't think it limits career progression, either one. They have different career paths, I think, because obviously if you're in a more commercial product management role, then maybe head of product, VP, chief product officer, if that's where you want to go, then that's a natural path. But it's also a natural path for a product owner, depending on the activities that you do as part of your role. And you can all, as as long as you have the core product skills that you need that allows you to work towards the success of a product, then you can also go down that path. So I don't think it limits you at all. Obviously, there's certain skills that you would need to learn. As some product managers, they manage product P&L, other product managers, they don't. But if you move up into those kind of senior product roles, then that would be key, for example. So you can report to boards or whatever it may be. But I don't think it limits you. I think it's if as long as you know what's required of that role and get that experience, or work to get that experience, then you're not limited at all.
Brilliant. And do you think that either role would be best if you wanted to, your career ambition was to do both roles at some point in your career, as you have done, would you say that it's best to start with one before the other, or do you think it doesn't matter whether you start as a product manager then transfer into a product owner?
Yeah, I don't think it matters. I think and as you said, really understand what you enjoy. And if you don't know, because obviously you're new to product management, start with a product owner role. You can start with a product manager role. See how you fit in the company. See how, if it's a startup or if it's a more established business, if the product's new, it's a new to market, or if it's an existing product. Depends on what you feel, what you like. And then you can have a feel for, actually, maybe product ownership is not for me and I want to do product management, or vice versa. But really just get your foot in. Doesn't really matter where you start, just start.
Yeah, perfect. So what one bit of advice would you give to someone who is looking to either move into product or is looking to kind of take that next step in their product career?
I would say reading books are fantastic. There's a lot of knowledge in books.
Yeah.
There's no knowledge compared to people who are in the role already, because product management differs vastly amongst companies, amongst B2B, B2C, different stages of the product life cycle. So find out what you love and what you want to know, find out what will elevate you to that next stage, and find somebody who's doing it already, you know, and get mentoring. I think that is definitely key, is always having someone that you can bounce ideas off, or someone that you can go to, or platforms like Product 51 or the Prodbox, and listen to other people who have been there and done that, listen to their lessons learned. The last episode on the Prodbox was actually lessons learned from product managers throughout, the industry with varying experiences, and it's so valuable to have that kind of on board.
Brilliant. And you kind of mentioned that you do mentoring at the moment. How did you go about finding your mentees, or did they find you? What advice would you give people who want to take that avenue to potentially partner with the right person for them? And also, how do you find these, the right person?
Well, my mentees find me in different ways. Either reach out to me on LinkedIn or via the prodbox.co.uk website. And just kind of send me a note and say they want mentoring. But you can just find online via LinkedIn mostly. I think everybody just kind of uses LinkedIn now. Created a bit of monopoly there. So, I think it's just finding what you need and finding the right person to help you with that.
I think it's having the confidence to ask as well, isn't it? I was speaking, one of my other collaborations last week was around, internships, and actually just getting that first step into product. And the person who he ended up doing an internship with, he wasn't considering doing that at all. It was nothing ever kind of, he considered, and someone reached out, and that actually kind of then created an opportunity. So I think that confidence is key. If you want to learn, you need to kind of put yourself out there and start talking to people. So obviously, where you mentioned around obviously books, so I kind of, the reason why I wanted to create Product 51 in a variety of different ways is when I started learning about product, I started reading books, and I really find that everyone learns in a very different way. And I don't know why I've done that, because I think, to be honest, I'm very much a people person, and talking to people and understanding from their learns really helps me to learn. And that's why we wanted to create a podcast, video and articles as well, because it's so everyone has, you know, different levels of time as well. So I know I like to put a podcast in while I'm cooking and, you know, listen to things. But if you were to advise on one kind of book or piece of learning which you kind of started out with and has helped you in your product career, or helped you you know, to kind of move into leadership, or, you know, different subjects like that, is there one book which you would recommend to the community to read?
Yeah, so I would recommend a book called Switch by Chip and Dan Heath.
Yeah.
So it's all about, so it's not directly related to product management, but it's all about change. So I find in my product management career, it's been in not startups, but more established businesses that maybe they haven't had an established product function, or there's different ways that they're working, or they're trying to move towards a more established product function. And I think a very important part of when you're going into businesses and trying to enact change is difficult. Change is difficult. Transformation is difficult. Moving from, you know, waterfall to agile is difficult, especially in a larger business. And I feel this book helps a lot because it gives you different ways to approach change. And, you know, they have a load of case studies in there and really key takeaways, like finding the bright spots in an organization that you can use as an example. And the case studies are from varying different walks of life. It could be like political change to, you know, something really like in a factory or something like that. So yeah, I found it really, really helpful, and it's a great read as well.
Good. I think it's good to take it outside of kind of naturally what you know, affects your work as well, because that's when you start to, like, you know, take in different bits of you know, advice from different industries, and also we all need a break from work every now and then, so it's good to read something different and keep you engaged. But thank you so much for that. That has been really kind of beneficial, and I know that kind of Product 51 will find that you know, really helpful to them. So I'll put a link to the book in the podcast as well, so that people can find that, and I'll probably order it myself as well. I'm building up my reading list while doing this as well.
You'll love it.